Good day, good folks. My name is Khepra, and I just want to welcome you to this latest edition of my blog here on YouTube. It's been a while. I've been obviously focused on our business, Khepra's Raw Fruit Juice Bar here in Washington D.C., and also personal family matters and things of that nature. But I definitely wanted to do a video this week to highlight a number of things that's happening. First and foremost, we're in the mix of the summer solstice. Today is the 21st. We recognize the solstice as being not just a one-day, first day of summer or first day of winter. It is actually a 4-day phenomena where the earth and the sun rotate with one another, where like right now, we get about 15-16 hours of daylight. So it's the longest day in the sense that in terms of sunlight versus darkness. So what does that mean? How does that affect us? How does that affect our health? How does it affect the collective community? Well, one of the things, really the simplest way to understand it is to look at a year like a long day. And so summer solstice will be the equivalent of high noon or midday, 12 noon. So it is definitely the high point of the year. So what does that mean in terms of how we position ourselves for the rest of the year? Well, the thing is that just as the summer solstice is the apex of the year energetically and otherwise, we need to look at in reference to the winter solstice. So the winter solstice is, energetically the new year. It is the low point, and it is when the energy begins to build all the way to the summer solstice. So really leading up into the winter solstice, that is a time that we need to plot, plan, strategize, so that we can best use our energy. Just as we prepare our day, we all understand and we all experience the fact that we need to get things done in the morning. We wanna have, we wanna rise early, 5-6 a.m. and our most productive part of our day should be between 6 a.m. and 12 noon. Or that's the equivalent of saying the most productive part of our year should be from winter solstice to the summer solstice. We're actually using, it's almost like a wind or the tide is at our backs during this time. We have the energy and the momentum from our stars, our universe, so that we can better accomplish our goals. So with that being said, the summer solstice is a time to really start to begin to reflect on how you use the last 6 months. Number one, because we are moving into summer, the energy will stay high, but it is also on a decline. So it is not necessarily the ideal time to begin a new project or a new goal. It's really a time to sort of maintain what you have accomplished up to this point. So whether it's you're working on your spiritual self, whether you're working on your physical self in terms of your health, diet, well-being, whether you're working on things that you're trying to in terms of your professional life, your work life, relationship, everything. All of these things are interconnected, interwoven, and so we need to really understand that. So really the summertime is really a time to sort of kind of maintain, but the energy has plateaued at this point. And so with the best that we can hope for the summertime is to sort of maintain the high that we have reached at this point. And by fall, fall is truly the time where we need to reflect. We need to take stock. It is harvest time, and it is the time that we need to take inventory of how we did, but also use that as the seed to say, okay, I like what I did here, I didn't like what I did here, and then sort of re-strategize for the following or upcoming winter solstice. So I hope that gives you some perspective if you didn't have that already. But it is definitely a high time. It is definitely something to be conscious of. Now, in terms of fasting and diet, a lot of people, it's become very popular to fast with the solstices and the equinoxes. I would say out of the two equinox and the two solstices, like this would be the least significant time to fast in comparison to the other three turning points in the year. With the winter solstice being obviously the strongest time to fast. Why do I say that? Well, because again, the energy, at least the sun energy, is at its weakest. So our will, or our physical self, our physical fiery self, is at its weakest. And also, so what is at its weakest? That means that something is at its strongest. That means that that our subconscious psyche is at its strongest. So how does that help, or how could we use that? Well, when our subconscious is at its strongest, that means that basically we're in a waking sleep. Our subconscious is at its strongest in a 24-hour cycle when we're asleep, when we're in dream state. So during the winter solstice time, the subconscious is most highly ripe for autosuggestion. And autosuggestion is basically it's just a term used to self-affirm, to give you, to basically to suggest to yourself the things that you would like to see manifest in your life. So the thing is that we all want good health, wealth, happiness, love, relationships, etc., etc. So the thing with autosuggestion, or with the subconscious psyche, is that it really fuels. It is really the going within, so that we can have without, or as above, so below, as within, so without. So the whole thing is that during the winter solstice time, that is a time that it definitely is the strongest period for fasting, detoxification, and to make really strong impressions on our subconscious psyche. Okay, so right now our subconscious psyche is at its weakest point. It is a good time. It's always a good time to fast. However, in terms of efficiency, and that's the other thing that just like in a 24-hour cycle, we're most efficient energetically during the daylight hours, especially during the morning hours. If we try to do the things in the morning at, let's say, 12 midnight, we wouldn't be, our brain, our organs wouldn't be, we all have a biological clock. We have a 24-hour biological clock, and then we have other clocks for different time frames. However, so the thing is that when we understand being efficient, and as we be efficient, we become more in sync with nature, because nature is operating on this clock, with the sun in relation to the moon in relation to the earth in relation to Mars and Mercury and Venus. All of these things is the cosmic order, and if we follow these principles, we can be in tune with that cosmic order, where as we go into fasting season, we naturally lose our appetite. We don't even have to use so much of our willpower to fast and to do the things that are going to lead ultimately a better life. So those are just some ideas. Those are things that I constantly revisit, not just with my community through my business and such, forums like this, but also within myself. Because these are things that I know will allow me to be a better person, be a better business owner, a better father, a better mate, a better person. So you have the. So again, I just want to wrap that up with saying, happy solstice. Let's enjoy the summer, and ultimately prepare for the next winter solstice or the next new year. We also have, speaking of fasting, within our Muslim brothers and sisters, most or if not all of them are practicing Ramadan, which is a fasting practice, which those of you who are not familiar with, it is basically a daylight fast, where nothing is taken in, food or water, for the daylight hours. And, one thing that I was hip to is that some people are actually taking it another step and then calling it RAW-madan. So when they are breaking their fast, at night, they're actually eating raw. And this got me thinking, this is, for number one, this is a really, I love the idea of Ramadan just in and of itself. Just any time where you can put yourself on a voluntary fast, regardless of what it is, it just basically reinforces your spirit, and it basically will say, like, food is just not what we put in our mouths. And when we can basically incorporate that kind of practice within our lives, then not only that it empowers us spiritually, but it also has an effect on all of our internal systems. It makes us healthier, stronger, wiser, smarter, better. So I love the idea of Ramadan, and I won't go into, just the logistics or the idea or the practices of Ramadan, but one thing I did want to mention is the fact that, it reminds me of how I eat, like basically the way I look at my diet when I'm not fasting. I feel like that, even though I don't wait till sunset to eat, I do fast for a good part of the day. And that is a practice that is, to me, in my professional and from my experience, one of the most powerful practices that I can impart, because every day is a new opportunity, and what we do daily is really going to make a difference in everything in our lives. So if we're taking at least half the day to say, I'm just going to drink water, or I'm going to drink fresh juices, or I'm just going to have fruits, I'm just going to really keep it light until the latter part of the day. This is what I've been doing personally for years. I will generally have one meal a day. And again, this kind of reminds me of what people are doing now with Ramadan. Is the fact I said Ramadan, Ramadan, uh, with basically fasting a day, and I think they eat like they wake up early before the sun rises and eat, and then they won't have anything until the sun sets. And obviously they're awake, so they're probably using, even though there's like you know there's there's uh, recommendations in terms of abstaining from sex, meditating, praying, etc., etc., which is awesome. And but the thing is that um, it would be a great idea, and I'm sure some people are definitely following this, but when the sun sets, it's not a time to like say pig out. It would be wise for those practicing Ramadan to eat light, to break fast, obviously, but then to just be respectful of the body, because the thing is that obviously as the sun goes down and darkness takes hold, our bodies shift into sleep and healing and rejuvenating, and it's not obviously during the sunlight hours is the time when our body is most ready or most able or at its strongest in terms of breaking down proteins, fiber, fats, etc. So for those practicing Ramadan, much respect. Big shout out to you and strengthening oneself in your particular faith. But I would say, as a nutritionist and food science person, I would definitely say eat light, and keep yourself basically that would sort of definitely accumulate and pay huge dividends versus having strong food and drink when the sun sets. But and then also big shout out to the whole concept of Ramadan. That is awesome. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was a lot of times I have customers, friends, family approach me with different questions or ideas, and one customer had asked me about smoking, and he was a particular gentleman. He was had been a couple of weeks without smoking, and wanted to hear what I had to say in terms of him continuing his journey, being cigarette free, and as I was responding, it got me thinking. I was like, oh, this is something I want to share. So here it is. I want to share with you. Basically, the whole idea of smoking, regardless of what it is, marijuana, cigarettes with the nicotine, regardless of what it is generally, the body being out of balance, one, and trying to regain balance with the substances being smoked. And really what it comes down to when I mention balance is it's an acid alkaline balance. So, people who tend to smoke, again, regardless of what it is, are probably most acidic. And so, if we look at the strongest acid forming foods, those being, meat products, and usually heavy starches, in the form of breads, pastas, cereals, etc. So if if you have a diet where it's heavy on heavy on meat products, dairy, things of that nature, that's going to create an acid-like environment. Now, what does that have to do with, like how does that translate in terms of ourselves energetically? Well, because when we look at smoking, what it does is it creates rhythmic breathing. So that in and of itself, that practice of itself, of a rhythmic breath, is an alkaline practice, because you're bringing oxygen into your lungs, you're holding it for, you may be holding your breath in between, you're letting it out. That in and of itself is creating it's not necessarily creating an alkaline state, but it is an alkaline practice. It is a calming practice. So when we look at alkaline, we really look at, like, relax. Some of the words that I think of is definitely relax or relaxation. You want to think calm, peaceful, all of those, words that fit into that spectrum. And then obviously with acid, acid like is just the opposite. So it's, agitated, quick to anger, impulsive, angry. So if you see a person that's exhibiting those kinds of traits, or that has that kind of spirit or disposition, most of the time you can say that person is acidic, or that person is acting acidic. So if we're eating largely acidic foods, obviously that's going to translate into our daily and overall temperament. And so going for the cigarette, or going for the cannabis or marijuana joint, that's going to create, or help create help balance out the acid in the blood, and then temporarily, and I stress temporarily, create momentarily create a alkaline environment. Now, what's the problem with this? The problem is that if we want to, going back to balance, it's not about eating alkaline foods all the time, and it's definitely not about eating acidic foods. We want to eat foods that are generally slightly alkaline for the most part. Even and if they're acidic, they're just barely acidic. They're like at the midpoint between acid and alkaline. Now, what's the food group where most of the foods fall within the balance of the acid-alkaline spectrum? Well, that's our fruits. Our fruits are basically in the middle. If you look at an acid-alkaline chart and a food chart, you will see that fruits and vegetables, for the most part, are in the center. You have some, obviously, with the darker green vegetables, especially the leafy vegetables. Those are definitely alkaline. Most of them. You might have one or two that may be acidic, and then even vice versa. In terms of nuts, because in terms of the nuts tend to be more acidic than alkaline, but you may have one or two nuts that may be alkaline. And the thing is that if we ate largely a diet that is sensitive to that, we wouldn't find the need, or we wouldn't have the desire to smoke alkaline substances. Now, the other issue with that is that when we smoke, we're bringing fire to these substances. When we bring fire to these substances, we're changing the chemical nature of these products, and we're just by bringing fire to it, we're taking it out of its center, and it becomes drug-like. So the issue with that is that it now intensifies the alkaline state, therefore giving it, just like with cocaine, which is from the coca leaf, which people native to that part of the world, Bolivia, Colombia, etc., eat coca leaf naturally, and it gives you a nice alkaline vibe. That's part of what I call a forbidden food, because I feel like, man, if we were eating fresh coca leaf, you're talking about I can only imagine what the nutritional profile of something like, wild growing coca leaves is. But when we take something like the coca leaf and we cook it and we process it to a powder, that's one level of now you're intensifying the alkalinity of that food, and now it becoming something drug-like, or a drug. Then you taking that and you taking it another step further, and you make it crack cocaine. Again, another level of processing and cooking. And you see the trend here. The more processes, especially when man steps in the way, the higher the intensity and the more dangerous it is. So that's what's happening really with all of our foods, especially our natural, quote unquote, foods, with genetically modified and, hybrid foods. So the thing is that that's the problem with, my cannabis lovers, because, even if you are growing the cannabis yourself, you really should, if you're going to ingest it, you should ingest it without heat. It's got the heat from the sun, and that's all the heat that it needs. If you want to press it into a juice, you want to, actually a few months ago, I actually had the delight of having it in a raw brownie. I definitely felt it, but it wasn't nothing like, I was fiending for or I needed to have, because I'm eating a lot of alkaline foods. So I'm always really in the alkaline state. And that's what we want to be. We want to be in a peaceful, loving, gentle state. And, obviously, if I need to call on that acidic energy, because that acidic energy is necessary, I can easily tap into it, because, I'm right. I like to think that I'm right, like at the center, well, I'm right at the center, but I'm on the alkaline side. So generally, my energy is going to be more alkaline. But running a business, raising children, sometimes that calls, for some acid energy to come out. So I hope that explains, that gives some insight into the whole smoking and the whole acid alkaline, because actually those are called, because really, just to sum the whole thing up, is that we're eating very strong acid forming foods, and then we're taking in very strong alkaline substances. They're actually called alkaloids. When you burn them and process them. So we're like, if this is the center, most people are like way over here with acid, and then way over here with alkaline. So it's like, it's just this whipsawing the body, the mind, the spirit, where like you should be here most of the time. So that's the acid alkaline balance from my perspective. Last but not least, I just want to highlight a few things we have coming up. one thing we do annually, I believe this is the 4th year we've partnered up with Jackie's on the Reef and Negril, Jamaica, is our raw food and yoga retreat. This is something that it personally gives me an opportunity to kind of check out of our urban jungle here, and really commune with nature in the tropics. That just alone is a reason worth going. But in terms of what and what I help to offer is to provide a view into, I think, living as the way it should be, eating predominantly or mostly, or if not all, raw foods in a tropical setting where we have access to not only fresh coconuts and tropical fruits and vegetables, but just the know-how to put those things together into something that can be enjoyed as a meal. I think about this a lot, in terms of what I've been able to contribute. It's one thing to, like, for example, me and my daughter today were, I had some coconuts and I was drinking the coconuts. We were having some of the meat. And then, she wanted more of that meat. And I began to think that, it's one thing to, open up coconuts, take the water out, scoop the meat out. But then it's a whole nother thing to take that meat and to really, transform it into something that can really highlight a lot of the senses, at least a lot of the taste centers in our mouth, and that really makes it it makes a huge difference than, like, say, any fruit or vegetable for that matter. Whether you say you have a garden and you got some greens growing and you just chewing on the greens, or if you take those greens, inside, you accent it with different fruits like avocado and tomato and maybe some onion, and make a natural dressing, and really enjoy it. It becomes so much more fulfilling. And so this raw food retreat is really this is really what it's about. It's really taking food, real food, in its truly natural state and making delectable cuisine. So, we're really, and I'm really excited to really be able to offer this opportunity, just on many levels. I really feel like, especially if you're interested in becoming a raw food professional, this is definitely something that you want to consider. Raw food, the raw food industry is, 10 years from now, I guarantee you, it's not going to look like what it looks like today. It's definitely becoming more and more mainstream. You're seeing celebrities, you're seeing athletes, you're seeing just the general populace. When I look at my business, I would have to say roughly 50% of my business is on, well, not even on the food, but on the juice cleanse. So, people are obviously very conscious on juicing, the power of juicing, doing juice cleanses. But the raw food is also, right there, in terms of people understanding. You're going to start seeing raw food. I wouldn't be surprised if even some of our mainstream fast food joints start saying, okay, we have a raw taco or a raw pizza, or something of that nature. You're seeing it, especially, if you travel in the big cities. I had the opportunity earlier this year. I traveled to Las Vegas. They had an all raw food spot, which actually reminded me a lot of my place here in DC. And it was awesome. It was great. Food was awesome. Uh, I was while I was in Vegas, there was also I went to another spot that was I guess kind of has a paleo focus. So they push the protein and obviously no gluten, but they have raw options. So even the paleo folks are see the power of the raw foods, um, and you're just gonna have more and more of that. People are not trusting mainstream media in terms of what they're pushing. Obviously, all they're pushing is drugs and surgery, and they're trying to basically just keep that machine going. Between the insurance companies and the hospitals and the pharmaceutical companies and all of those things are dependent upon people becoming sick and slowly dying of cancer and getting major organs cut out. So these things, people want ultimately. Most people want to be healthy. They want to have vitality, and once people really tap into that desire, they're going to see that eating better, eating more raw foods, periodic fasting, juice cleansing, etc. That's going to become more and more the norm. So really, this retreat, going back to the retreat, we're gonna really, delve into that. So not only will it give you the opportunity to learn from me and learn from, my 15, 20 years of experience, not only living the lifestyle, but being a business person within this lifestyle, but also just become a better you. Become a better you, whether you want to become a raw food professional or not. Obviously, if this is something, if I mentioned, sometimes, unfortunately, it takes sickness and disease for us to wake up, and that's not a bad thing. What is it's actually a great thing. It's an opportunity to say, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. I'm not going to leave it up to the doctors and the drugs, and the surgery, and the chemo and the steroids for me to get better. I'm going to allow my body to regain itself, to do it on its own by me giving it to the proper nutrition. So this retreat will be in Jamaica. It'll be February. Well, I'll post the link, and but it'll be on I believe the third weekend in February 2017. So I definitely want to inspire you to come join me. The other thing that I wanted to mention is we're going to be having our Raw Food Festival here in Washington D.C. That's another thing that's coming up. That I'm seeing. Raw food festivals. That reminds me, actually, when I had the opportunity to go to Toronto last year, and they have a big festival. Actually, I think it just passed. They do a big raw food festival in June, and then they have a couple of awesome dynamite raw food restaurants. So Toronto is a major city. I believe it's got like 4 million population. But the raw food consciousness is definitely there. It's definitely international for sure. A lot of things, obviously, in terms of awareness and consciousness can start in the U.S., but or could not. But if we look at the history of raw foods, there's definitely an imprint in terms of we look at the movement in this country, and I think it's just like I said, I wouldn't be surprised 10, 15 years from now. It's like corporations take notice of the trend. So I think for anyone, regardless of where you see yourself fitting in, it could be an opportunity. Whether you want to become just become a part of the lifestyle. People becoming coaches, people obviously becoming chefs, or or if you wanted to just become a natural practitioner, and just understanding the power of raw foods within your practice. So we have a raw food festival again next month. Again, I'll provide the link below for details. Be here in DC. I'll be speaking. I'm going to be talking about thriving on a raw food diet. That's going to be my topic. I will also be vending food, and then we obviously going to have our end of summer festivals that we're going to be part of. We'll be in Baltimore for the Soul Vegan Fest. We'll be in Richmond for the Happily Natural Weekend, Happily Natural Day. And then we'll be doing our local festival, DC Veg Fest. It's awesome here in DC. So yeah, definitely check us out, whether it's at a festival. Consider coming to the retreat. Treat yourself on our retreat. Or just come to the shop, enjoy our food, do a juice cleanse. It's the best thing. So, peace and love. Happy Solstice. Thank you for watching.